Welcome to part 2 of my tutorial on how I produce videos for my series Discovering Religion. This part we're going to be talking about Pinnacle Studio, kind of how to use some of the aspects of this program, and also why I like this program over others. In Pinnacle, I've noticed that it is a very easy program to use. For advanced users, it's not going to be able to do what they're going to need it to do, basically. And I've hit limitations with this program in the past. The drawback to Pinnacle is that you only have 2 to 3 video tracks and 2 audio tracks. So this right here, you can see this is a video track with its own separate audio. Here's another video track with its own audio, and then you have a text track. And this can also, you can also put video or pictures here. So you basically have 3, and then you have 2 audio tracks. So for the the intro user, that doesn't really produce a lot of videos or need a lot of tracks, Pinnacle I highly recommend. If you're going to be doing some crazy editing where you need a bunch of different audio tracks and you're producing your own score and you're using if you ever looked at Video Copilot and gotten some of those things for After Effects, and you would definitely need to use Premiere in order to incorporate all those different layers together. But for me and for most people out there editing videos, 3 tracks are going to be enough for video and 2 for audio. However, there's ways to get around needing so many tracks. If you had a certain section of video you needed to produce and it needed to have maybe 3 or 4 different videos playing at one time, you can always render clips over and over again and add in the video as needed, or you can just go into the other editors and produce that clip for that section. But the reason I don't use those other editors as much is because I've noticed that these programs tend to crash. Adobe Premiere crashes quite frequently. Sony Vegas will also, and as well as Pinnacle, they'll crash on you maybe a couple times during your editing process. And if you aren't saving your project every couple seconds and it crashes on you, then you've lost work. But Pinnacle has a great fail-safe in that if you're working and it crashes, when you restart the program, it will ask you, do you want to continue from the place that you last left off? And if you hit continue, you'll find that you haven't lost any of your work, and you can go ahead and save it at that point, and you won't, everything will be fine. But I've lost big sections of work that I was producing in Adobe Premiere, and and anyone that's lost work before knows how frustrating that is. So I don't even mess with those programs anymore. Unless I have something very specific that I need to produce, I'll go to those programs, make the clip, render it in those, and then import it back into Pinnacle. Before we start looking at the different options in Pinnacle, go to Setup and take a look at the project preferences. We want to create a widescreen, and I use this setting here. I use this format. You can look in the drop-down menu. If you don't put it on this format, I think the default will probably be like a standard, or it will probably be letterboxed. You're going to have on the side of the screen, when you upload it to YouTube, you're going to have these like black bars on the side, and it's going to look letterboxed, and it's better to have widescreen. So quickly, I want to just go over some of the icons here and how to use Pinnacle. These here are kind of access to different features. This right here is where you import your video. If you click here, you can go ahead and navigate through your computer and find the folder that you have your video in, and then you can import video from there. These are your different transitions. If you drop down the menu, you can pick from a variety of preset transitions, and if you have, this is an additional plugin that can do kind of fancier transitions. I don't really use this one much. This is titles. I don't use that much. This one here looks like a camera. This is where you can import pictures, and you can do the same thing. You click on this folder, and you can go through and find your image folder where you have all your images stored, and then you can just double click on those and load up your images. I don't really mess with this icon very much. And then this next icon is for sound effects and then music. So this is where you can import your audio from. You can just drag and drop all of these different features. We can drag and drop the video just like that, and here's the second video track. We can drag and drop these various transitions, photos as well. See, and we can even put it on the third video track. So this T here is for text, but it can also be a third video track. and then your audio, you can go ahead and just drag and drop your audio. So any voiceover you've done, you can just go ahead and drag and drop that, and then this is your voiceover. And what I like to do after I put my voiceover in, I'll lock it. See, so when you're playing around with your video here, and you have your voiceover, sometimes when you see how this is now moving, it's clipping the audio as you move the video around. That's not good if you're trying to edit over a voiceover. So you want to lock that track, and then you can go ahead and move this however you want. And if I grab the very end of this, I'm basically increasing the time length that this video is going to stay on the screen. So now, you know, it's from 10 seconds here, it's moving all the way to 37 seconds. So that's how you can kind of increase the length and time of different videos. Now I'm going to show you really quick how to create like kind of a little setup, how to do overlays within the Pinnacle Studio. Alright, so this icon right here is access to your videos. And if we open up this folder, we can see here that I have 2 videos in this library. Now if you double click on one, it will go ahead and now try to start detecting scenes. You don't really need to use this option. You can hit cancel, and now we see that the video is able to be is able to be accessed to the library. What we do is we just drag and drop it down into our kind of a scene here, and this is now the first video track, and then we can drop this one down here too, and that's our second video track. This video slot right here is behind this one. So this video slot takes precedence over this one. So if you're doing 2 layers at a time, this area down here would be on top of this area. Now if we wanted to manipulate the audio and video individually, say the audio and video don't sync up. Sometimes when someone's speaking, the audio isn't lined up with their voice. You can lock this, and then with this audio down here, you can move it, and the audio will change its position, and you can kind of match it up with the voice. But say you didn't want the audio at all, you can just go ahead and click this button here. This is delete, or you can just hit delete on your keyboard, and now the audio is gone. Now we have just the video to play around with. Now say you wanted to find a scene in here, and if you want to zoom in and out, you can just click anywhere on this timeline and zoom in, or pull left will zoom out, and pull right will zoom in. You also have the plus and minus on your keyboard, and they can do the same too, plus or minus. Alright, say we find a scene here that we want to use. Before we go ahead and start clipping it up and editing it, you see that these have like black bars here, and it's kind of letterboxed. We want to make this widescreen to make it really look like a good video production. And so we want the screen to fit. We don't want the extra letterboxing. So what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this video, and now we're going to get our kind of project icons. We can go right here, it's like a little plug. That's for our different effects. And now we can go in here to picture in picture, double click that, and then we're just going to go down to full screen. Okay, and then here we can choose how to stretch and resize the picture. So I'm going to do width, and then I'm going to do height, and that looks pretty good. So now we can see that it's widescreen now. Now I'm going to go through and try to take out clips of this. So this looks like a kind of a good fighting scene here. So right here I want to also split this and scrub along and see, you know, some pretty good action scenes here. So I'm going to just go along and kind of pick out scenes that I like and cut that, and I can just delete what's around it. Alright, so now I'm left with a few scenes here of like some different action. So that should be good enough. Now say I want to do a transition between these scenes. I go here to my transitions, and now you know, if you click on this window, you can see that there's a bunch of different kinds. For right now we're going to stick to the 2D transitions. This is like a fade to black. So if we put this at the very beginning and you hit play, you can see that kind of comes up from black. Now if you want to extend the transition, the time of this transition, you highlight the transition and then bring your cursor over to the edge and then pull. and we can see that we extend the time of this transition. So now it's taking much longer to fade in. And then say between these two scenes here, we want to do just like a crossfade, like just like an easy fade from one to the next. And again, we can make it shorter by going like that, highlighting the transition and making it to go faster. When you get Pinnacle, you can just play around with these different effects, but these are the two main ones I like to use. Now let's say we want to kind of have them fighting, and we want to do an overlay track and kind of have a map being going around and have them fighting over the map. And here's a map that I have produced, and I'm just going to take this and drag and drop it down to the second layer. I'm just going to line this up, and then in order to extend the time of a scene, because it only starts out about 4 seconds, we can go to the edge of this and just drag it out, and this will increase the length of the time that the image will appear in our timeline here. Now say I want to zoom around this, I'm going to double click, and now we come up with this screen here where we have a little slider bar, and it allows us to zoom in and out. And we can also hit reset, and it'll go back to the original size. In Pinnacle, there's kind of a little glitch that I've noticed. You have to be careful when you're animating, because if you try to set the animation in point before you zoomed in and got everything set up, it's going to zoom back out, and you're going to have to reset things, and that can kind of be annoying. Let me show you what I'm talking about. You hit animate, and then you zoom in, and say you want to start from this point, okay? And then when you hit set end, it's going to zoom back out to the original size, and then you have to zoom back in, and that can kind of be a little annoying if you're trying to just zoom over and you don't want to zoom out or in again. So let me show you how to correct that. Hit reset, and we're going to zoom in exactly where we want to be, and now we hit animate. Now when we select set end, it's not going to jump back out, and we can just go ahead and slide over, and we're going to still be on the same area that we first started, the same position zoomed in. And now what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to zoom over, pan over, like that. But let's say you wanted to focus in on one certain spot, and say you wanted to zoom, you zoom in here and then stop on Rome and then zoom up to England. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit animate and then go set end and zoom in to Constantinople. And then say we want that to last about 10 seconds, so we're going to bring the cursor over about 10 seconds here, and then we're going to hit cut. So these are two identical scenes here, and what we want to do is we're going to remove the animation and then hit match previous clip. So this one is starting where this one left off. And now we're going to hit animate again, set end, and we're going to move over to Rome. Okay, and we say we want that to last about 5 seconds or so. We're going to cut it and say we want to pause on Rome for a few seconds. So we're going to move over here, split the clip again. Now if you're familiar with video editing, this is sort of a different way to keyframe, but instead of setting different keyframes, I'm just going ahead and splitting clips and then matching the previous. You can keyframe in this program as well, but like I said, this is a much more basic program, and you know, it's virtually the same as keyframing. I'm going to remove this animation, match previous again, and see now we're zoomed on Rome, and then this is going to stay here for a while for this time frame. I'm going to move over here, match the keyframe again, or match the previous clip again, animate, set end, and then I'm going to move up to England. And then I can go over here, split it, and then I just want to pause on England. So then I'm going to hit match previous clip, and this is just going to sit right there. So now if I scrub through really quick, you can kind of see what the effect looks like. It's going to sit on Rome, then move over, and then stop. Now you can see that it's blurry. That's because it's still rendering. If you look here, the scene is trying to render itself. Now we want this overlay to be see-through because we want to see the action behind it. So I'm going to double click this, and you know, it would have probably been a good idea to make this see-through to begin with, but if you forgot, here's a trick to make all the scenes collectively apply the same effect. we're going to highlight them all, and then we're going to go to this effect here. And this is sort of an additional picture-in-picture chroma key. You have the same options if you go into these effects and you say Add New Effect. You have now right here in the HD effects, you have chroma key and picture-in-picture here, and you can do the same thing. But I like to just go here and make it full screen, and then video transparency. I slide this video transparency to about 50%, and now we see that the action behind it is able to be seen. And you can play with it, make sure it's able to be visible. See, so now when we look through it, there's action behind the map being zoomed around and panning and all that. Now let's say we wanted to put text over this. We can go here to Toolbox, Create Title, and then we'll do a classic title overlay. And we'll just drag a box of where we basically want this to be. And we can highlight that and then go here and change the text color. And if you hold down the left mouse button here, you can pick the different colors or different settings. I go into Custom typically, and I don't like the shadow. I remove the shadow, and then I bring up the outline around the text, and that helps. I put it on about 4, and then it helps the text really pop out. And then the font that I like to use is this one. And then I can center it, and then just bring it down like this. And say I wanted this to kind of be my intro. What I can do is I can just cut. I hit Control X, it's like the hotkey, and then I'm just going to paste it behind that. There. So now this whole scene is behind my little intro. Now say we want to add effect to this. We want it to zoom in subtly and kind of give a nice effect. We can do this one of two ways. We can go up to Toolbox and go down to Add Video Overlay Effects, and then go down here and hit this plug button, and now we have a list of our effects. Or another way to do it is just go here to this little icon, and it'll open up the same thing, and we just go ahead and click that. Now I want to pan and zoom. I want this text to kind of zoom in toward me. So we double click this effect, and we're going to create keyframes. So now we see that there's keyframe 1, keyframe 2. Keyframe 1 is fine where this is. It's position, the zoom horizontal, all that's fine. I'm going to click over to keyframe 2, and I want it to zoom in just a little bit like that. Now we can see that it's moving toward me a little bit. And with keyframes, you can set any position and then just modify the position as you go through the keyframes, and it will move according to that. Let's put our transitions here, and now let's take a look at how this now see, it's very subtle how it's moving toward me, and I don't want it to be too obvious. You know, it's not good to have a really quick text flying at you all the time. I found that in order to keep the viewer's attention on certain things, it's good to have a kind of a slow, subtle movement. For example, say we were to go in here and we open up a picture. So say I have this picture of some space scene, some nebula. I'm going to double click, and I'm going to zoom in like we did the other time. And I just want to kind of it's not good to just have a static picture. Even if you're just talking about something, you want to give it some sort of movement. It keeps the interest of the viewer, and it doesn't seem like it's just so static all the time. So what I like to do is I just zoom in, and even if it's very subtle, I just hit animate and then set end, and I just move it over just a little bit like that. Even if it's just very subtle like that, it'll keep the it'll seem like the frame is always moving, and it just gives a nice effect. Sometimes it's not always conscious to the viewer, but as you edit more video and you watch other productions, you'll see that this kind of keeps the attention of the viewer more than if it were just a static picture. Now let's say that you wanted to show a picture and also display a Bible verse on top of that. but you felt the picture was kind of overpowering the text, and you want to kind of dim down the picture to bring more focus to the Bible verse. I've done this several times in my videos, and it kind of helps draw attention to what the text that you want to talk about, and kind of away from the picture. So let me show you how to do that really quick. I'm going to just drag this picture in here and extend it, and then I'm going to zoom in. Say I want to zoom up to the phase. So I'm going to, remember I first zoom in, then hit animate, then set end, and then zoom up. And say I want to zoom in a little bit more on the face, like that. Okay. Now this seems a little bit too long. I'm going to bring this back a little bit. And then I'm going to go up here to Toolbox, create title, title overlay. And then I've got the verse already copied, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Then I'm just going to bring down the text font, or bring down the text size. Okay, so that seems centered. You have guidelines here to kind of center it. Now, you want to kind of get everything set up exactly where you want to go. Okay, so this is going to play for a little bit, and then the text is going to come in, and then it's going to end like that. Now, I want this picture to be clear right now, but then when I get to the point where the text is going to pop in, say I want the text to pop in right here, I want that picture behind to go dim. So what I can do is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here first, and I'm going to get my transition. I'm going to put over the text. So now the text will fade in like that. And then I'm going to do some keyframes here on this picture. So I'm going to double click the picture. I'm going to go to this plugin effect, add new effect. I'm going to go to the chroma key, and then I'm going to do new keyframe. And now we see that keyframe 1 starts here, keyframe 2 starts here. I want to add a third keyframe right here where this transition begins. So I'm going to hit add, and it's going to add one right where my cursor was there. And now it's creating a second one in the middle. Right? So you hit this button over, and it's going to go to 2. And I'm going to make the so I want the picture to be this transparent right now. And then I'm going to create another keyframe here, add, and now I want the transition to go between these two keyframes. So now I'm going to make the transparency of the third keyframe about 50%. Okay, now I'm going to copy that, and now I'm going to go over to the fourth keyframe, and see now this popped back up to 0, make that 50. That way it's going to stay 50% from 3 to 4. So now what's going to happen is once you get to 2, 2 still maintains the same transparency as 1, but then you have a transition down, and now it gets darker. So that's kind of another thing you can do with keyframes and transitioning and the transparency. Now if you had something behind this here, the transparency would show through, but since it's black, it just becomes dim. Another trick that we can do is say you have a video. I'm going to show you how to grab an image from a video. Okay, so now I want to take this scene from my video and make it a picture. So I go up to Toolbox, I go to Grab Video Frame, I hit Grab, and then Add to Movie. And now this is a picture that I can extend like this, and I can zoom in and do whatever I want to it. And now it's a picture from the video. This helps a lot. So we can see here if we're playing this, and then it all of a sudden stops, and now it's going to the picture. Now another option, if you have a lot of pictures and you want to flip through them at the same rate, and I did this effect in episode 3 and 4, where I was showing a lot of different fossils, and I wanted to emphasize the sheer number of fossils that we have displaying the age of the Earth. You go into the picture, and here I have different fossils organized, and so you can just when you're selecting things, I don't know if you guys are familiar with shortcuts or hotkeys, but if you want to select a whole row of things, and this works for anywhere in Windows. I mean, if you're in Windows and you want to select, like, say, a row from this 28 to 35, say, you hold down Shift and you can select the whole row like that. Or I could go on and select this, or up to here, right? But if I wanted just to select different images, or like say 28 and then 30 and say every other image or every other file or whatever you're selecting, you hold down Control on the keyboard and then you can select ones at random. Anything really. See how all these are different selects. So anyway, that's just kind of a tip for you. But I'm going to select all of these and then just drag them into the frame. And I'm going to go back into so now I have quite a number of pictures here, and if you double click on it, I'll bring you up to the animation screen, and you'll see that it's going to last 4 seconds. That's the time limit for this frame. Say you wanted to go through them like really fast, say less than a second. Highlight all of them, and now we're going to apply the same effect to every single image in this that's highlighted. We're going to go here. We're going to type 00 for the seconds, and then we'll say like 05. So it's gonna. I guess by default it keeps it 15, but you can just decrease it down like that if you want to do like 0.05. And now watch how fast it will go through all these pictures. Now let's say you have a quote and you want to manipulate different aspects of this text in order to highlight something or add or remove words or something like that. So say you paste it in like we do normally for the text overlay or the title overlay, and then we're going to double click this again, and we're going to say say we want to highlight certain words in this. What we're going to do is we're going to move to a position and we're going to cut. So now say we want to highlight the devil and his angels. Okay, we're going to go here to color. This is in the standard. Now we're going to do custom. Go in here to color, pick yellow or red or whatever you like, and then we'll underline it as well. And now we're going to go into the transitions, and we'll just put the fade transition in. And now watch, when we hit play, it's going to fade in that underline. But let's say then we want to add the verse. So we're going to go back here, just delete this, and we're going to cut it again here. So we got rid of the verse citation on both of these, and then we want to fade the verse citation in here. We do the same thing, and now it will fade in the verse citation. So when you're doing this, it's best to get everything kind of organized on the very last frame, like here, and then cut it up a couple times, and then go ahead and do your highlight and delete different text from here. Because if you're adding the text first and then splitting it and then adding more text, it might reformat some of this text that's already here in the verse, and then it would look all off. So you want to get everything set exactly how you want it to appear, and then start removing different aspects of that so it doesn't change the format, if you can understand what I'm saying. Now there's also a lot of different video and also audio effects that you can add. If you go up to Toolbox, you can go to Add Overlay Effects, or Add Video Effects actually, and just do Add New Effect. And then you go to like Studio Ultimate, and you can see that there's, you can do an old film, and it will kind of make it look sepia. You can do black and white, and you can see that there's kind of these. Also, another trick that I haven't said yet is if you want to see the image in full screen and see what you've produced and do a full screen preview, just double click, and then it will start to play. And you can see that there's kind of like an old film look to it. There's a lot of different effects that you can look through and I'll let you do that on your own. And you can also do keyframe for different effects as well. So keep in mind how to keyframe, how to incorporate some of these different effects in your work. So that about does it for the basics of Pinnacle. No, I went a little fast, and if you aren't used to using these video editors, I might have gone too fast for you. But this is more of a kind of a medium to advanced video. I don't really want to explain all the very basics. You can learn that on your own or look at other tutorials. Here's a finalized project file that I have. This is the latest video I've done, the Sadomasochistic God, and you can see here how it's set up. You know, here's the video clip and so that's basically what a project file looks like. I didn't really go over the audio. Quickly, I'll kind of show you how that works. When you're doing audio, you just go ahead and put the audio track in, and then you can see that right here there's a little anchor point. Whenever you click on this line here, you create an anchor point, and then you can move that up and down, and that will change the volume of the audio. So that will cause it to rise and then peak, and then if you wanted to move it back down again, it would fade out. And if you want to delete an anchor point, you go to that anchor point, you right click, and you hit delete volume setting. So what this is basically doing is causing a fade in. Kind of how this fade in worked here. You can do it manually by just creating one anchor point, and this is going to keep the volume at that certain level, and then you take this anchor point and you move it down, and that's going to cause it to kind of fade in. So that's kind of an example of that. The audio is really easy to work with. You just kind of have to play with the levels, but it's pretty self-explanatory. So now we want to make the movie. We go here to this option, and there's various different settings and codecs that compress the file down. If you're not familiar with codecs, if you've ever installed like an audio or a video player, and it says you don't have the codec, it's basically saying you don't have the program that reads that type of compression that the video's been made with, and so you have to go in and find that codec. You have different settings here. So here's audio. If you wanted to just render the video and make it just like an MP3, you can produce just an audio file with this, and it would be an MP3 setting. Or you could do also a WAV. AVI, you wouldn't really use this one unless you wanted to produce a video without any compression, and you can see that for this 14-minute video it would render out to be 3.02 gigabytes, and that's pretty huge. DivX, you probably wouldn't really want to use this one, and you can, you could use it, but you can see that there's different settings than under DivX. You can do a small, medium, full screen. You can do the PS3, Xbox. So there's different settings underneath the one codec. An MPEG-1, there's sort of a family of MPEGs. MPEG MP3 is for audio, but then you have an MP1 or an MPEG-1, which is used for video, video CD. And that is something you could just put on a CD just like normal. Like you could use any kind of burning program like Nero and put that on a CD, and you can see that the quality is going to be pretty low on that. That's only going to be 143 megabytes for 14 minutes. That's going to be a pretty low quality. Then you have a next higher quality is MPEG-2, and that's going to produce a super video CD, and the quality is going to be a bit higher on that, but still not as good. The setting I like to use, but these both can be put on CDs, whereas the setting that I'm using here on Windows, I use a Windows Media. This is going to have to be converted into a file that's able to be placed on a DVD or a CD, versus an MPEG-1 or MPEG-2, which can go directly onto a DVD or a CD without being converted. But I use this to be posted on YouTube, Windows Media, and then I use this setting here. And you can see that this 14-minute video is going to be about 549 megabytes, but it's going to produce a very high quality video, and it's not that bad. It uploads to YouTube pretty quickly. So that's kind of about the rendering settings and different codecs. In the next video, we're going to go over how to use Photoshop, how to create different matted images, and how to incorporate those into Pinnacle.